Although limits to growth are now politically incorrect and banned from public discourse, they still exist. Universal energy laws place harsh limits to growth on the global economy. These limits are especially critical for energy production, because if energy production is limited, then all other economic growth is limited too. In fact, the recent run-up in global oil prices is an example of those limits to growth, which was foreseen by energy scientists many years ago. For the last 50 years, many geologists and oil companies have published estimates of the total amount of crude oil that will ultimately be recovered from the earth over all time. Remarkably, these assessments have varied little. The history of oil production in the lower 48 states provides a frightening lesson, which shows clearly how energy laws limit available energy, and thus, all economic activity. In the 1930s, 1 barrel invested in oil exploration, drilling, and pumping produced about 100 barrels of oil. By the 1970s, 1 barrel invested only produced about 25 barrels of oil. Within a couple of years, 1 barrel invested will only produce 1 barrel of oil. Universal energy laws place harsh limits on energy production. Although millions of barrels are left in the ground, production must stop, because it's losing energy. The history of oil production in the lower 48 states provides a frightening lesson, which shows clearly how energy laws limit available energy, and thus, all economic activity. Under a 1-for-1 scenario, even if the price of oil reaches $5,000 a barrel, it wouldn't make energy sense to look for oil in the lower 48, because that would consume as much energy as it would recover. Even if one paid a ton of gold per barrel, one still could not get net energy out of a well that consumes as much as it produces. Existing wells will continue to produce until they become 1-for-1, at which time they will be abandoned. New drilling technology cannot overcome universal energy laws. This fact has been clearly demonstrated by the history of oil production in the lower 48 states. 100 years from now, hundreds of billions of barrels of oil will still be left in the ground, because it would require more energy to produce it than could be recovered. The same energy laws that limit oil production limit all forms of energy production. Capitalism needs more and more natural resources for more and more economic growth. In order to supply more and more natural resources for economic growth, more and more energy is required. Although bankers can print money, they cannot print energy. If we cannot overcome energy laws, where are we going to find the natural resources that capitalism needs? Is war the only answer?